Hey friends, I've already made videos covering 2 of the 4 books that Catholic YouTuber Kyle Whittington sent me. The Case for Jesus and Bearing False Witness. But I have not yet made a video on How the Catholic Church Built Western Civilization by Thomas E. Woods Jr. Let's fix that. I haven't finished reading this book cover to cover, but I've been taking some notes on it, and I decided it was about time that I make a video on this book anyway. I honestly don't have anything to disagree with when I'm reading this book. This book doesn't appear to be super apologetic. Sure, the book glosses over things that the church may have done poorly, but that's not exactly the point of the book. The book seems to be just outlining how the church was integral to Western civilization. And yeah, I agree. There's not a whole lot in here that any person with a real understanding of history can really disagree with, I don't think. I knew a fair amount about how the church built Western civilization. I grew up trad. That's like half of every trad's personality is talking about how the church built the West. But I learned some new stuff when I was reading this book, and I just kind of want to share 3 of those things with you today. The first is about monks and monasteries and all of their contributions to Western society. I knew about a lot of monk contributions to Western society, like Gregor Mendel, the father of genetics, was a monk. But I didn't know this. Monks also pioneered in the production of wine, which they used both in the celebration of Holy Mass and for ordinary consumption, which the rule of St. Benedict expressly permitted. In addition, the discovery of champagne can be traced to St. Peter's Abbey. And the fundamental principles established at St. Peter's Abbey continue to govern the manufacture of champagne even today. Another thing that I learned was just how influential the papacy was in the establishment of the university. I did know that just the general education system of the West came out of the Catholic Church and the monastery and the preservation of knowledge, but I didn't really know just how involved the Pope was in the establishment of the university. See, in medieval Europe, it was fairly common for local lords to try to assert themselves over all of the institutions in the area, not just the churches, but the universities as well. And it was generally the popes that fought against this institutionally. When the Chancellor of Paris insisted on an oath of loyalty to himself personally, Pope Innocent III intervened. In 1231, when a local diocesan official encroached on the institutional autonomy of the university, Pope Gregory IX issued the bull Parens Scientiarum on behalf of the Masters of Paris. In this document, he effectively granted the University of Paris the right to self-govern, whereby it could make its own rules pertaining to courses and studies. The Pope also granted the university a separate papal jurisdiction, emancipating it from diocesan interference. With this document, writes one scholar, the university comes of age and appears in legal history as a fully formed intellectual corporation for the advancement and training of scholars. The papacy, writes another, has to be considered a major force in shaping the autonomy of the Paris Guild, as in the organized body of scholars at Paris. And staying in that same vein, something else that I learned was about the Catholic Church's contribution to science. Of course, I knew about most of the big things that everybody knows about the Catholic Church's contribution to science, but I learned something in particular about the Jesuits. See, being a trad, I didn't learn a whole lot about the Jesuits growing up, except that they used to be great and now they're not. However, I never really learned about the scientific achievements of the Jesuits. From page 100, it was the Society of Jesus, the priestly society founded in the 16th century by Ignatius Loyola, where the great bulk of Catholic priests interested in the sciences were found. A recent historian describes what the Jesuits accomplished by the 18th century. Quote, they had contributed to the development of pendulum clocks, pantographs, barometers, reflecting telescopes and microscopes, to scientific fields as various as magnetism, optics, and electricity. They observed, in some cases before anyone else, the colored bands on Jupiter's surface, the Andromeda Nebula, and Saturn's rings. They theorized about the circulation of the blood, independently of Harvey, the theoretical possibility of flight, the way the moon affected the tides, and the wave-like nature of light. Star maps of the southern hemisphere, symbolic logic, flood-controlled measures on the Po and Adige rivers, introducing plus and minus signs into Italian mathematics. All were typical Jesuit achievements. So there you have it, just a short video today outlining 3 things that I learned from How the Catholic Church Built Western Civilization by Thomas Woods. You don't have to be Catholic to recognize that the Catholic Church made a great number of contributions to Western society. And yes, I do know and I am familiar with arguments like, well, the Hindus built universities hundreds of years before the Catholics did. Yes, but this book is called How the Catholic Church Built Western Civilization, not global civilization. And I think that everything that this book says seems right to me. I really don't have anything to nitpick about this book. So instead of nitpicking, I just wanted to share 3 things that I learned. Thanks, everybody.